Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Capital Investments. Earlier I posted a series on futures trading. So in case you haven't checked it out, please do check out my 5-part series on futures trading where I teach right from basics to highly advanced level where you need to hedge your portfolio using the beta calculations. So this is very important. So I recommend you go sequentially. And right now we'll be moving forward to learn the options, and I'll be first taking over the theory of options trading. On my channel, if you go to the videos, you will also find several other videos that are highly interesting. So my everyday trading videos also I have posted here, how I've made profit in live trading. You may check this out, and in case you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel for regular updates. So this options theory is basically applicable for professional trading. So let us begin with the call option basics. So let's start with breaking the ice. While teaching the futures basics, I have made the assumption that you're completely new to futures, and that's how I have taught you from the basics. Similarly, in options trading, I will also assume that you are new to options and therefore know nothing about options. So for this reason, we will start from scratch and slowly ramp up as we proceed. So let us start with running through some basic background information. So the options market makes up for a significant part of the derivatives market, particularly in India. I would not be exaggerating if I were to say that nearly 80% of the derivatives traded are options and the rest are attributable to futures market. Internationally, the options market has been around for a while now. Here's a quick background on the same. So the custom options were available as over the counter or OTC since the 1920s. These options were mainly on commodities. Options on equities began trading on the Chicago Board Options Exchange (CBOE) in 1972. Options on currencies and bonds began in late 1970s. These were again OTC trades. Exchange traded options on currencies began in Philadelphia Stock Exchange in the 1982, whereas the interest rate options began trading on the CME in 1985. So clearly, the international markets have been evolved a great deal since the OTC days. However, in India, from the time of inception, the options market was facilitated by the exchanges. However, options were available in the off market, that is the Badla system. Think of the Badla system as a grey market for derivatives transactions. The Badla system no longer exists. It has become obsolete. Here's a quick recap of the history of the Indian derivatives market. On June 12, 2000, the index futures were launched. On June 4th, 2001, index options were launched. And on July 2nd, 2001, the stock options were launched. And on the 9th of November 2001, single stock futures were launched. Though the options market has been around since 2001, the real liquidity in the index options were seen only in 2006. In case some of you were trading options at that time, then definitely you would remember the spreads were high and getting fills was a big deal. However, in 2006, the Ambani brothers formally split up and their respective companies were listed as separate entities, thereby unlocking the value to the stakeholders. In my opinion, this particular corporate event triggered vibrancy in the Indian markets, creating some serious liquidity. However, if you were to compare the liquidity in the Indian stock options with the international markets, we still have a long way to catch up. A special kind of an agreement. So there are two types of options, the call option and the put option. You can be a buyer or a seller of these options. Based on what you choose to do, the P&L profile changes. Of course, we will get into the P&L profile at a much later stage. For now, let us understand what the call option means. In fact, the best way to understand the call option is to first deal with a tangible real world example. Once we understand this example, we will extrapolate the same to stock markets. So let's get started. Consider this situation. There are two good friends, Ajay and Venu. Ajay is actively evaluating an opportunity to buy 1 acre of land that Venu owns. The land is valued at rupees 5 lakhs. Ajay has been informed that in the next 6 months, a new highway project is likely to be sanctioned near the land that Venu owns. If the highway indeed comes up, the valuation of the land is bound to increase, and therefore Ajay would benefit from the investment he would make today. However, if the highway news turns out to be a rumor, which means Ajay buys the land from Venu today and there is no highway tomorrow, then Ajay would be stuck with a useless piece of land. So, what should Ajay do? Clearly, this situation has put Ajay in a dilemma, as he is uncertain whether to buy the land from Venu or not. While Ajay is muddled in this thought, Venu is quite clear about selling the land if Ajay is willing to buy. Ajay wants to play it safe. He thinks through the whole situation and finally proposes a special structured arrangement to Venu, which Ajay believes is a win-win for both of them. The details of the arrangement is as follows. Ajay pays an upfront fees of rupees 1 lakh today. Consider this as a non-refundable agreement fees that Ajay pays. Against these fees, Venu agrees to sell the land after 6 months to Ajay. The price of the sale, which is expected 6 months later, is fixed today at rupees 5 lakhs. Now, because Ajay has paid an upfront fee, only he can call off the deal at the end of the 6 months if he wants to do that. But Venu cannot. In the event Ajay calls off the deal at the end of 6 months, Venu gets to keep the upfront fees. So, what do you think about this special agreement? Who do you think is smarter here? Is it Ajay for proposing such a tricky agreement or Venu for accepting such an agreement? Well, the answer to these questions is not easy to answer unless you analyze the details of the agreement thoroughly. I would suggest you review the example carefully. It also forms the basis of understanding options. Ajay has plotted an extremely clever deal here. In fact, this deal has many faces to it. Let us break down Ajay's proposal to understand some details. By paying an agreement fee of rupees 1 lakh, Ajay is binding Venu into an obligation. He is forcing Venu to lock the land for him for the next 6 months. Ajay is fixing the sale price of the land based on today's price, that is rupees 5 lakhs, which means irrespective of what the price would be 6 months later, he gets to buy the land at today's price. Do note, he is fixing a price and paying an additional rupees 1 lakh today. At the end of 6 months, if Ajay does not want to buy the land, he has the right to say no to Venu. But since Venu has taken the agreement fee from Ajay, Venu will not be in a position to say no. The agreement fee is non-negotiable, non-refundable. Now, after initiating this agreement, both Ajay and Venu have to wait for the next 6 months to figure out what would actually happen. Clearly, the price of the land will vary based on the outcome of the highway project. However, irrespective of what happens to the highway, there are only three possible outcomes. Once the highway project comes up, the price of the land would go up. Say it shoots up to 10 lakh rupees. The second possibility is that the highway project does not come up. People are disappointed and the land price collapses, say to rupees 3 lakhs. And the third option is like nothing happens. Price stays flat at rupees 5 lakhs. I'm certain there could be no other possible outcomes that can occur apart from the three mentioned. We will now step into Ajay's shoes and think through what he would do in each of the above situations. Scenario 1. Price goes up to rupees 10 lakhs. Since the highway project has come up as per Ajay's expectation, the land price has also increased. Remember, as per the agreement, Ajay has the right to call off the deal at the end of 6 months. Now, with the increase in the land price, do you think Ajay will call off the deal? Not really, because the dynamics of the sale are in Ajay's favor. The current market price of the land is rupees 10 lakhs. Sale agreement value is 5 lakhs. This means now Ajay enjoys the right to buy a piece of land of rupees 5 lakhs when in the open market the same land is selling at much higher value of rupees 10 lakhs. Clearly, Ajay is making a steal deal here. Hence, he would go ahead and demand Venu to sell him the land. Venu is obligated to sell him the land at lesser value simply because He had accepted rupees 1 lakh agreement fees from Ajay 6 months earlier. So how much money is Ajay making? Well, here's the math. Buy price rupees 5 lakhs. Add the agreement fees of rupees 1 lakhs. Remember, this is a non-refundable amount. So the total expense for Ajay is 5 lakhs plus 1 lakh, that is 6 lakhs, and the current market price of the land is rupees 10 lakhs. Hence, the profit of rupees 10 lakhs minus 6 lakhs is equal to 4 lakhs. So the final profit or the resultant profit is 4 lakhs. Another way to look at this is for an initial cash commitment of rupees 1 lakh, Ajay is now making 4 times the money. Venu, even though very clearly knows that the value of the land is much higher in the open market, is forced to sell it at a much lower price to Ajay. The profit that Ajay makes, that is rupees 4 lakhs, is exactly the notional loss that Venu would incur. Let's analyze the scenario 2. When the price goes down to 3 lakhs, it turns out that the highway project was just a rumor and nothing really is expected to come out of the whole thing. People are disappointed and hence there is a sudden rush to sell out the land. As a result, the price of the land goes down to rupees 3 lakhs. So what do you think Ajay will do now? Clearly, it does not make sense to buy the land, hence he would walk away from the deal. Here is the math that explains why it does not make sense to buy the land. Remember, the sale price is fixed at rupees 5 lakhs 6 months ago. Hence, if Ajay has to buy the land, he has to shell out rupees 5 lakhs. Plus, he had paid rupees 1 lakh towards the agreement fees, which means he is in effect paying 6 lakhs to buy a piece of land just worth rupees 3 lakhs. Clearly, this would not make sense to Ajay. Since he has the right to call off the deal, he would simply walk away from it and would not buy the land. However, do note, as per the agreement, Ajay has to let go of rupees 1 lakh, which Venu gets to pocket. Now, for whatever reasons, after 6 months, the price stays at rupees 5 lakhs and does not really change. What do you think Ajay will do? Well, he will obviously walk away from the deal and would not buy the land. Why, you may ask? Well, here's the math. Cost of the land is 5 lakhs. Agreement fees is 1 lakh. So the total cost is 6 lakhs, whereas the value of the land in the open market is 5 lakhs. Clearly, it does not make sense to buy a piece of land rupees 6 lakh when it is worth rupees 5 lakhs. Do note, since Ajay has already committed 1 lakh, he could still buy the land but ends up paying rupees 1 lakh extra in this process. For this reason, Ajay will actually call off the deal and in the process let go of the agreement fee of rupees 1 lakh, which Venu obviously pockets. I hope you have understood this transaction clearly. And if you have, then it is good news, as through the example, you already know how call options work. But let us not hurry to extrapolate this to the stock markets. We will spend some more time with the Ajay Venu transaction. Here are few Q&As about the transaction which will throw some light on the example. Why do you think Ajay took such a bet even though he knows he will lose his 1 lakh if land prices does not increase or stays flat? Agreed. Ajay would lose 1 lakh, but the best part is that Ajay knows his maximum loss, which is 1 lakh, beforehand. Hence, there is no negative surprises for him. Also, as and when the land prices increases, so would his profits and therefore his returns. At the rupees 10 lakhs, he would be making a rupees 4 lakhs profit on his investment of rupees 1 lakh, which is 400%. Under what circumstances would a position such as Ajay's make sense? Only that scenario when the price of the land increases. Under what circumstances would Venu's position make sense? Only that scenario when the price of the land decreases or stays flat. Why do you think Venu is taking such a big risk? He would lose a lot of money if the land prices increase after 6 months, right? Well, think about it. There are only three possible scenarios, out of which two indeed benefit Venu. Statistically, Venu has 66.66% chances of winning the bet as opposed to Ajay's 33.33% chance. So let us summarize a few points before we proceed forward. The payment from Ajay to Venu ensures that Ajay has the right. Remember, only he can call off the deal, and Venu has an obligation if the situation demands, he has to honor the Ajay's claim. The outcome of the agreement at termination end of 6 months is determined by the price of the land. Without the land, the agreement has no value. Land is therefore called an underlying and the agreement called a derivative. An agreement of this sort is called an options agreement. Since Venu has received the advance from Ajay, Venu is called the agreement seller or writer, and Ajay is called the agreement buyer. In other words, since this agreement is called an options agreement, Ajay can be called an options buyer and Venu the options seller or writer. The agreement is entered after the exchange of rupees 1 lakh. Hence, 1 lakh is the price of the option agreement. This is also called the premium amount. Every variable in the agreement, area of the land, price, and date of sale is fixed. As a rule of thumb, in an options agreement, the buyer always has a right and the seller has an obligation. So I would suggest you to be absolutely thorough with this example. In case you have not understood, then please rewind the video and see it again to understand the dynamics involved. Also, please remember this example as we will revisit the same in a few occasions in the subsequent videos. So let us now proceed to understand the same example from the stock market perspective. Let us now attempt to extrapolate the same example in the stock market context with an intention to understand the call option. Do note, I will deliberately skip the nitty-gritty of an option trade at this stage. The idea is to understand the bare bone structure of the call option contract. Now let us take a hypothetical example of a stock that is trading at rupees 67 today. You are given a right today to buy the same 1 month later at say rupees 75, but only if the share price on that day is more than rupees 75. Would you buy it? Obviously you would, as this means to say that after 1 month, even if the share is trading at 85, you can still buy it at 75. In order to get the right, you are required to pay a small amount, say rupees 5. If the share price moves above rupees 75, you can exercise your right and buy the shares at rupees 75. If the share price stays at or below rupees 75, you do not exercise your right and you do not need to buy the shares. All you lose is rupees 5 in this case. An arrangement of this sort is called option contract, a call option to be precise. After you get into this agreement, there are only three possibilities that can occur, and they are the stock price can go up, say rupees 85, the stock price can go down, say rupees 65, the stock price can stay at rupees 75. Case 1. When the stock price goes up, then it would make sense in exercising your right and buy the stock at 75. The P&L would look like this. The price at which the stock is bought is 75, the premium paid is 5, so the expense incurred is 80. Current market price is 85, so the profit is 85 minus 80, that is rupees 5. Case 2. If the price of the stock goes down to 65, obviously it does not make sense to buy it at rupees 75, as effectively you would be spending rupees 80, that is 75 plus 5, for a stock that is available at 65 in the open market. But in this case, you will have to forego the rupees 5 paid as a premium. Likewise, if the stock stays flat at 75, it simply means you are spending rupees 80 to buy a stock which is available at 75. Hence, you would not invoke your right to buy the stock at rupees 75. Similarly, you will lose the rupees 5 premium you paid to buy this call option. It's a simple, right? If you have understood this, you have essentially understood the core logic of a call option. What remains unexplained is the finer points, all of which we will learn soon. At this stage, what you really need to understand is this. For reasons we have discussed so far, whenever you expect the price of a stock or any asset for that matter to increase, it always makes sense to buy a call option. Now that we are through with the various concepts, let us understand the options and their associated terms. So please take a look at the following table and try to understand the various option terminologies. Of course, the lot size is also applicable over here, as well as we have monthly and weekly expiries. Finally, before I end this discussion, here's the formal definition of a call options contract. The buyer of a call option has the right but not the obligation to buy an agreed quantity of a particular commodity or a financial instrument, that is the underlying, from the seller of the option at a certain time, that is the expiration date, for a certain price, that is the strike price. The seller or writer is obligated to sell the commodity or financial instrument should the buyer so decide. The buyer pays a fee called a premium for this right. So in the next video, we will look into a few finer details with regards to the call option. So let me summarize the video for you. Options are traded in the Indian market for over 15 years, but the real liquidity was available only since 2006. An option is a tool for predicting your position and reducing risk. A buyer of the call option has the right and the seller has an obligation to make delivery. The option is only given to one party in the transaction, buyer of an option. Option seller is also called the option writer. At the time of the agreement, the option buyer pays a certain amount to the option seller, that is called the premium amount. The agreement happens at a pre-specified price, often called the strike price. The option buyer benefits only if the price of the asset increases higher than the strike price. If the asset price stays at or below the strike, the buyer does not benefit. For this reason, it always makes sense to buy options when you expect the price to increase. Statistically, the option seller has higher odds of winning in a typical options contract. The directional view has to pan out before the expiration date, else the option will expire worthless. So guys, that's it from my side on the first part of the call option basics. Hope you have understood the video and you have understood the basic terminology of call options. We'll meet in the next video where we'll decode the options basics and its jargons. So until then, happy learning. Bella ciao.